Yo, what's good, guys? It's Austin here, or Luna. So today's story time is unlike one that I've ever told on this channel before. It's definitely a crazy one. It's just all around wild. I hope you enjoy it. Leave a like on the video if you do. And yeah, man, let's just jump into it because, yeah, I don't know how else to start this. So today's story time all starts off back when I was 15 years old, man. Yeah, I was young in this story time. Now, I always hung around an older group of people, kind of unintentionally. I don't really know why. I always made friends that were like a year or two older than me. It's not like I was hanging out with 40-year-olds. That'd be creepy. But, you know, when I was like 15, I usually would hang out with like 16, 17-year-olds that I knew. Just because, I don't know. I'm not going to sit here and be like, oh, I'm so mature. Like, that's not what it was. I just, for some reason, always clicked with them harder than the people that were my age. I think a lot of the reason was like the people that I was friends with in my hometown that were like a year or two older than me had like more interests, like the same interests as me. For example, like skateboarding, I skated a lot from ages 15 to 17, and all the people I skated with were like a year or two older than me. That's kind of how I met a lot of these people. But yeah, you know, back in the day when I was 15, I had friends that were my age, of course, because I went to school and stuff, but when I would hang out with people outside of school, it was typically like 16, 17-year-olds that I met skating. Now, the only problem I had with hanging out with people that were a year or two older than me is they were a little bit crazier than me. They were 16, 17, like, you know, a little older, kind of had a little bit more like teenage attitude compared to like me. Don't get me wrong, I was definitely a little bit of a shithead at 15, but these kids were definitely crazier. So yeah, this all starts off like a normal day back then. It was summer vacation. I woke up at like 2:30 p.m. in the middle of the week, got ready for my day real slowly, took a nice long shower, ate some breakfast, and I had plans on this day to go to the skate park and meet up with 3 of my friends. And my mom already knew about it. She was cool with it, didn't have an issue with it. And yeah, I was excited, man. The skate park was always an amazing time, always a fun time. And I was stoked to go there and skate with my friends and enjoy the day, right? So upon arriving there, my mom dropped me off and I met up with my friends at the park. And I was hanging out with 3 people in specific. We'll give them names. We'll call one of them Jared, we'll call another one Ricky, and we'll call the last one Josh. Now, for the most part, all 3 of them were relatively normal dudes. 2 of them were 16, one of them was 17. They all went to different schools. We all just met at the skate park. And there was one person in this group in specific who I would say was the most crazy. That would be Josh. Josh was that type of dude where if someone looked at him the wrong way or just did anything to disrespect him in the slightest, he would not let it slide. Sometimes that was a good thing, sometimes that was a bad thing. Because, you know, on one hand, if someone disrespected us, like our friend group, Josh would always be that dude at the front being like, yo, fuck you, show some respect. You know, he was really, really like a ride or die friend. He would always defend us. But on the other hand, it got us into some situations sometimes. And this situation I'm about to talk about is probably the craziest one. So anyway, back to the story. I get to the skate park. I'm skating with Ricky, Josh, Jared. We're all hanging out, having a good time. It started off like any other session. It was fun. And about an hour into it, the skate park kind of starts to die down. Usually on the weekdays at like, I don't know, between 5 and 7 p.m. it would start to die down a bit. And then sometimes it would pick back up during the nighttime because the park wouldn't close till 10. So I can't remember what time it was exactly, but I remember it was around dinner time. So probably between the hours of like 6 or 7, I'm guessing. And the park was pretty dead. It was just me, my friends, and then like one other group of people. And that was kind of cool because we had the whole park to ourselves, basically. It was pretty nice. But then later on, about an hour before the park closed, so at about like 9 p.m. I'd say, a bunch of dudes showed up. Like 2 cars full of people showed up, and they both knew each other, both cars. Like I remember when they pulled up right next to each other, and 4 people got out of each car, so 8 dudes in total, and they were all talking in a big group right before they came in. Now, I don't know why, but watching them talk in the parking lot from one of the ramps I was standing on, they just looked kind of like they were going to be a problem. Not because of the way they were dressed or the way that they looked or anything like that, right? It wasn't on appearance. It was just on the way they were talking. Like they were being really loud. One of them kept like pushing another one back and forth. They seemed like they were a little bit drunk, honestly. I don't know if they were, but it seemed like they were. And I remember me and all my friends at the top of the ramp just kind of looking at each other like, damn, bro, like these guys are loud. They're going to get in the way. I just know it. Well, about 5 minutes later, these 8 dudes enter the park. They come in and they start skating on the ramps. And for the first like 30 minutes or so, they're not really much of an issue. They were a little bit in the way. Like sometimes we'd go for a run and they'd get in the way on accident, but it wasn't like a problem or anything, right? Like that just happens sometimes. But then at about 40, 45 minutes in, something happened that kind of changed the way we felt towards each other, right? So Josh had this run he was about to do. He was going to drop in on the quarter pipe, and then try and grind on one of the benches that was on the right side of the park. And one of the guys in that other group was over there by the bench. He was sitting on it. And Josh, nicely as ever, like he could not have asked this more nicely, he yells over to the guy, like, hey man, hate to be annoying, could you stand up real quick? I just want to go for a grind on that. Then you can sit back down, like, my bad. And this guy, like, rolls his eyes and gets up off the bench and, like, is essentially making a huge big deal of him having to move. Like, he was, like, upset about it. And, like, dude, it wasn't even, like, a normal bench. You were sitting on a bench that was meant to be skated. Like, he wasn't supposed to be sitting there. Like, there was bleachers on the side of the park for sitting, and that's where he could have sat. But he chose to sit on a place where it's supposed to be skated. So he was just in the way. Anyway, after he throws his little temper tantrum and he walks away, we thought we're good, right? So Josh starts going for this grind. He drops in off the quarter pipe. He starts skating towards it. And right as he's about to ollie off the pavement and go for the grind, this fucking dude, the one that was just sitting on the bench, grabs his board, like the board he was holding, and throws it at Josh's board while he's ollieing off the ground and completely fucks the whole thing up. And Josh has to bail. And because Josh bailed and jumped off his board, he tripped over the bench. Like, he tried to land on the bench with his feet, but he, like, didn't land it correctly, so he tripped. And he ended up falling onto his right shoulder and kind of fucking it up. Like, he laid on the ground for a second and was, like, in pain. So naturally, us being friends, me, Ricky, Jared, we run over to him and check on him to see if he's okay. And while I'm checking on him and Ricky's checking on him, Jared runs over to the dude that threw the board, and he's like, what the fuck are you doing, man? Like, why the fuck would you do that? And this guy's just not saying shit, the guy that threw the board. He's just, like, crossing his arms, being dead quiet, not saying a thing. And Josh is just still on the ground, grabbing his shoulder. And I'm like, yo, are you okay? Are you okay? Like, you gonna be good? And he's like, yeah, I'll be fine. I'll be fine. Just give me a sec. Give me a minute. And Josh lays on the ground for about 30 seconds, right? And just, like, regains his composure and, like, you know, gives his shoulder a second to breathe. And then, when that 30 seconds is up, I see Josh's face just completely turn. His face went from I'm in pain to I'm gonna inflict pain. And Josh proceeds to stand up, pick up his board off the ground, and then start walking towards this man that threw the board at him and made him fall. Now, immediately, everybody else in our group were like, oh shit, we gotta stop this. So we started running up to Josh and try to, like, grab the board from him, but he was too strong and too angry. He, like, pulled us away when we tried to grab it, and he winded back and proceeds to swing on this dude with his board. And this dude connects the board, like the trucks and the wheels, clean to the guy's face, like right to his cheek, to the side of the face, and he just smacks him with the board full force. And it sends this guy to the ground very quickly. And I remember after he did this and the guy fell on the ground and was just laying there, I genuinely thought, like, yo, that guy's dead. Like, he hit him so hard, and that guy is on the ground knocked out. Like, with how hard Josh hit him with the board, I genuinely thought this guy either died or had a serious, serious brain injury. And I remember after he does it, right, and the guy falls on the ground, me and all my friends just kind of look at each other with, like, this face of, like, yo, like, what do we do? And we're just staring at this guy on the ground as he's unconscious. And next thing I know, this guy's friends come running over, all of them, like 7 guys, right? And I'm kind of shitting myself because it's like, yo, there's 7 people running towards us and Josh just knocked their friend out with a skateboard. So, like, they're going to try and hurt us for sure, right? Well, guess what? They showed up and they didn't try and fight us at all. They just, like, checked on the dude on the ground and then they asked us what happened. And after that, one of our friends, Ricky, explained to them, like, he threw his board at Josh because Josh asked him to move. And then Josh hit him with the board to, like, retaliate. And now he's knocked out. So now everybody's kind of, like, together trying to wake this dude up because we're all freaked out, right? And after about 10, 20 seconds of trying to wake him up and him not waking up, one of them calls the cops, like an ambulance. And after the dude gets on the phone with 911, he tells the operator that their friend took a bad fall at the skate park. He didn't say that he was hit by one of the other park goers, which kind of confused me because it's like, why wouldn't they just tell the truth? If I had to guess, maybe they were, like, afraid of having to fill out paperwork with the police or something. I don't know, right? Like, maybe they didn't want to talk to cops. I don't know. But for some reason, they did not tell on Josh, which is kind of crazy. And while he's on the phone with 911 calling an ambulance, this dude starts to wake up, to which all of us were super relieved because we didn't want this guy to die, obviously. Like, yeah, what he did was a dick move, but I think, you know, Josh slapping him across the face with a skateboard was already too much. Anyway, the guy wakes up. And naturally, he's very confused because he just got whacked in the face with a skateboard and probably hit the side of his head with it and, you know, probably had a crazy concussion. But he was conscious and he was answering questions. For example, he knew his name, he knew the date, he knew like who the president was. We were asking him all these questions, right? And he looked at Josh, and I think he remembered what just happened, because he looked at Josh and at first his face was like kind of confused, but then his face changed into like fear of like, oh, this is the dude that just knocked me out. And yeah, his face looked real like fearful. But anyway, about 5-10 minutes later, the ambulance pulls up and the paramedics kind of start evaluating him, you know, asking him questions and stuff, checking his vitals. And this guy ends up refusing to go to the hospital. Like, they're trying to take him, right? He's like, I don't want to go. And they're like, you took a pretty hard blow to the head. You should probably come to the hospital. Like, you could have a traumatic brain injury. You probably should go. And he's like, I don't need it. I feel fine. I'm good. Just let me like sleep it off. And they were like, that's a really bad idea. And he just didn't care. He kept refusing. And after he refused a bunch of times, the paramedics were like, all right, well, we can't really force you to go. So if you want to stay here, you can stay here. But we really recommend you go to the hospital. He didn't care. He refused again. So yeah, the paramedics finished up. They did all they could do at the park, you know, checked his vitals, stuff like that, made sure he wasn't like actively dying. But, you know, I think he definitely needed a lot more tests. I think he needed a brain scan, but he didn't do it. He didn't go to the hospital, and they left. Now, shortly after the paramedics left, all of the dudes got in their cars and they dipped, including the guy that got smacked in the face with the board. And I remember standing there just thinking like, yo, how did this unfold the way it did? From the guy getting hit in the face with the board, to the paramedics showing up, to the fact that those guys didn't like fight us over it. That was the part that surprised me the most. Like the fact that those, you know, 7 guys didn't like try and jump all of us because Josh hurt their friend, you know? My thought is, like, this is just an assumption, it's not fact. My thought was that maybe all those dudes in that group just knew how crazy their friend was, and they just didn't want to get into a fight over him because he does this a lot. You know, maybe he like gets into trouble all the time and like they're just not willing to fight over it. I don't know. But anyway, I thought I would never see those guys again, or at least that guy, the one that got, you know, hit with the board. But literally a week later, I was at that same park with Ricky, just Ricky, and that guy was there skating by himself, just back on the board, like nothing happened, skating like nothing was wrong, which is crazy. And he actually came up to us at the park. He's like, hey guys, how you guys been? And at first I was like, yo, did Josh hit him so hard with the skateboard that like he forgot who we were or something? But nah, he knew who we were. After we said hi back, he was like, I've been healing up well. Your boy hit me pretty hard. He ended up telling us that he had to go to the dentist like 2 days later because a tooth was loose and he had to get it pulled, which is crazy. So Josh knocked a tooth out, but he never went to the hospital or the doctor and got like a brain scan. I think he should have, but we saw him at that park for the next like 2 years and he was fine every time we saw him. So I guess he was all good. I just can't believe this unfolded the way that it did. I really can't. Like, it could have been so much worse. I mean, it already was pretty bad, but like those dudes could have jumped us. That dude could have gotten way more hurt. Josh could have went to jail for doing that. All around, I think everybody in this situation got very lucky in the end. And that's just the biggest factor at play here was luck. And you won't always be that lucky. So the moral of the story is don't do what anybody did in this story time. Yeah. But yeah, guys, that's pretty much the end of the story time. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please leave a like on the video. I'd really appreciate it. Feel free to leave your story times in the comments down below. And subscribe if you're new. I will see you guys later. Peace.
Always stay devoted, mama knew I'd be a star.